Since President Clinton left office, the number of lobbyists in this city has doubled, and the price per hour of lobbyists in this city has doubled. Now, basic economics tells us if the supply is going up and the price is going up, it can only be because the productivity is going up. And the productivity of this system is going up. Now, how is it going up? Well, again, I think Kaiser's work is extraordinarily important here. The Democrats have poo-pooed concern about earmarks. But earmarks, in my view, are in fact the broken windows of this story. They are the kernel upon which this economy got built. And it's that kernel that then drives the second component, what Representative Cooper described to me as the current state of Congress, which is simply a farm league for K Street, as he put it. Increasingly, members, staffers, and bureaucrats have a common business model in their head. It is the focus on life after government, a life that is fed by lobbyists. 50%, as Public Citizen described, of senators between 1998 and 2004 left the Senate to become lobbyists, 42% of representatives. And it is because of this access that they have this opportunity. As Kaiser puts it, for lobbyists, access is a saleable commodity. Former members had it, and it's that access that drives this economy of influence. The lobbyists delivering something of enormous value to Congress, channeling the money that they need to run their campaigns, businesses channeling an enormous amount of money to the lobbyists, and Congress delivering the return. Now, this is different, I think, fundamentally different from what kind of corruption we've seen in the past. Again, Kaiser. Money has been part of American politics forever, on occasion in the Gilded Age or the Harding administration, for example, much more blatantly than recently. But, as quoting someone else, the scale of it has just gotten way out of hand. The money may have come in brown paper bags in earlier eras, but the politicians needed and took much less of it than they take through more formal channels today. Indeed, increasingly in D.C., money is the model. Again, Kaiser, in earlier generations, young men came to Washington looking for power and political adventure, often with ambitions to save or reform the country of the world, or the world, I should say. In the last fourth of the 20th century, such aspirations were supplanted by another familiar yearning to get rich. Now, the effect of this economy of influence on policy in America is real. From the most important to the most esoteric, from global warming to copyright, the distortions of this economy of influence are real. So let me talk about responsibility. So I've argued we have a world where the perception is influence is bought. And my view is, reality is, that policy is bent. The first leads to cynicism in the public as they look at this institution of government and see no good reason for them to get involved. And the second is extraordinarily bad policy. So what do? Well, obviously this has to change, right? We need to find a way to restore trust, to make it so that nobody can believe that money is in fact buying results. And second, to end these distortions inevitable in any economy that looks like this. And of course, one way to do this, increasingly in my view, the only way to do this, is to follow Teddy Roosevelt's idea from 102 years ago to support citizens' funding of the nation's elections, or in a Barack Obama font, it would look like that. And the closest, though I don't think perfect, current instantiation of that is the Fair Elections Now Act. But in my view, this is a horrible framing title for this movement. This is not about fairness. Indeed, to evoke the framing of fairness is to ask the Supreme Court, it's to beg the Supreme Court, it's the red towel in front of the bull, it's to beg the Supreme Court to find a reason to strike this down. This is not about fairness. This is about trustworthiness in government. It's a statute designed to make it so that people can once again believe that the government is trustworthy, that what it does, maybe because it's stupid, maybe because it's too liberal, maybe because it's too conservative, but it doesn't do what it does because of the money. Now, focusing to get this statute passed is the prime objective of the organization I started with Joe Trippi about a year ago now called Change Congress. But I need to focus you on a more fundamental issue here, an issue of responsibility. And I want to frame this by putting it in a little different context. You might remember this exchange from the tragedy of the Exxon Valdez.
Valdez traffic. Yeah, it's Valdez back. We should be on the radar there. We've fetched up on the ground north of Goose Island, Boy Reef. And evidently we get some oil. And we're going to be here for a while. And if you want, so you're notified, over.
Now, of course, an important question was raised about exactly how much Captain Henderson had had to drink that night. And the claim was made that he was drunk, and he fought that claim vigorously. But there is no debate about the fact that Henderson was an alcoholic, and that he confessed to having had drunk what would, to ordinary people, be a significant amount that night. So as a captain of an oil tanker that everybody knew was an alcoholic. Now, we have a tendency to focus on the Hendersons in this story. The people who are captured by a dependency which, for many people, they simply can't control. But I want you to think about not the Henderson. I want you to think about the other senior officers on that ship, who at each moment where they recognized that the captain was an alcoholic thought instead, this is not my problem is navigation. My problem is whether the oil gets on or off the ship quickly. My problem is the engine room. My problem is not his problem. My problem is my own area. Because we, in this debate, all of us, are the equivalent of the crew in that story. We have a responsibility here, not to blame the addict, but to blame those who allow this addiction to harm, and that has been us. We have not made this issue politically the single most important priority so far.